Hello, my name is Chris Gaines, and I serve as Superintendent of Schools here in the Melville School District. Thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to watch this brief presentation about Proposition R. Before I talk about our revenue expense trends, I'd like to mention that here in Melville School District, we operate the largest restaurant system in South County, serving just under 1 million meals per year. That's around 5,700 meals a day. We also operate the largest transportation system in South County, transporting 8,000 kids about 3,700 miles a day. And we have almost 1.8 million square feet under roof to maintain, as well as a significant amount of grounds. And of course, we also educate about 10,500 kids every day. So as we look at the revenue side of our budget, much of the information presented here was provided by the Finance Committee in the spring of 2015. In school budgeting world, we often joke that everyone wants to help us budget expenses, but those folks aren't around and don't want to help when it comes to budgeting revenue. Our revenue growth has been anemic at best. Looking at over the past few years, revenue growth has been minimal and not kept pace with inflation. In fact, Social Security cost of living adjustments have outpaced revenue growth for us. If our revenue was growing at the pace of Social Security benefits, we would have collected an additional $51 million during this period. We can also see that local property tax collections have been erratic, yielding stagnation overall. The bars represent the percentage change in tax collections over the prior year. Keep in mind, this is our single largest revenue source. And you might recall from data and presentations last year that our tax rate is the second lowest in St. Louis County. Here, you'll notice the decline of property values in the district that has occurred. Our assessed value is $226 million lower than it was in 2008. We've lost more assessed value than 234 Missouri school districts have. State revenue has also been a challenge. The state legislature approved a new funding formula about 10 years ago, after the previous one was about $1 billion underfunded, and districts filed suit. The new formula hasn't been fully funded in years. That has cost us millions over the last 6 years. Transportation funding has dropped and is now stagnant. And Parents as Teachers funding, a program which started in Missouri, remains well below previous funding levels. On the expense side, the district has been frugal, keeping annual expense growth to 1.7%. Given the rise in health insurance costs, utilities, and a period of high diesel prices, the district has done a fine job containing expenses. Schooling is a labor-intensive business, and those costs have been held down. In fact, we have one of the lowest salary per student numbers in the county. The result is a low expenditure per pupil amount. Here in Melville, we invest $3,500 less in our kids than the county average, and about $1,500 less than the state average. Overall, expense growth has been held down, but organic growth has outpaced anemic revenue growth. The result of this disconnect has been a series of cuts over the past 11 years or so. We can find 4 series of cuts in that time period. The cumulative effect of those cuts has been a reduction 13.5 administrators, 120.5 teachers, and 53 support personnel. This is a cumulative personnel reduction of 187 employees. But people weren't the only things cut. Many other items have been cut. Buildings and classroom budgets have been slashed over and over. We spent $1 million more for textbooks and instructional support materials in 2004-05 than we do now. Facility needs have been delayed. Library budgets were zeroed out this year. Clubs were eliminated this year. And now we charge kids to ride the bus if they live within a mile of their school. Late in August, information from the annual Phi Delta Kappa Gallup Poll was released. When folks were asked the biggest problem facing public schools in their community, the #1 response was lack of financial support. The compounded effect of a lack of financial support, as well as the aforementioned cuts, has been a decline in student achievement, large class sizes, lack of materials, and a lack of staff development. We've seen an exodus of teachers. PTOs are funding our operational costs rather than being able to concentrate their funds on enriching and enhancing the educational experience of our kids. And we have facility needs of over $55 million. And in order to balance the budget for next year, we would need another $3 to $5 million in cuts without additional revenues. I wonder sometimes if this will be an example of what busing will look like in the Melville School District. And have I mentioned that we have struggling readers on waiting lists for help? The information I've shared thus far represent the reality that we face. The question is where we go from that reality, and that's guided by our strategic plan. The Melville Strategic Plan was developed during the last school year based on surveys and focus groups. It was adopted by the board last winter and is guided by 3 main goals: student preparation, teacher support, and being an effective and efficient system. It would take about $14.5 million to fund the plan in its entirety, and that would require an additional 85 cents in tax levy. We've prioritized it down to fewer items and are asking for 49 cents in additional tax levy on Proposition R. In the area of student preparation, we'd like to add reading specialists and ELL specialists to help our struggling learners. We'd invest in our teachers and administrators to become better at their craft, because people improvement is school improvement. And we would restore some of the cuts that were made last spring. In the area of teacher support, we would like to get textbook and instructional support material spending back to 2004-05 levels and invest in continuous classroom improvement training. That's a model used by those districts in the region making the most gains in student achievement. And we would gather feedback in a systematic manner. We've got to better understand the voice of our customers. It was my hope to restore transportation, but an old state statute kept us from being able to do so with this levy proposal. My intention, though, is to recommend adding it back if revenue growth in other areas can support it. I mentioned the Gallup Poll earlier. Another item asked folks how to improve schools, and the #1 response was improving the quality of teachers. We've got to invest in our people. I mentioned earlier that our tax rate is currently the 2nd lowest in St. Louis County. With the passage of Prop R, our tax rate would still be the 2nd lowest in the county. In sum, Proposition R is a 49-cent increase in the operating levy that would cost the owner of a $150,000 home $11.64 a month, or 38 cents a day. On November 3rd, our community will decide the future of our school district. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to watch this presentation. More information about Proposition R can be found on our website. Thank you.